Hello and welcome to the show. Listen, I am so glad that you joined us for this wonderful show. This is March, and what is it? It is Women's History Month, and we're celebrating some phenomenal women. But I always tell you, this is about being intentional because for the whole year, I've been focused on what God wants me to do in my life, and that's being intentional and doing that. Just exactly what He has said in my heart and what He speaks to me, what He wants me to do. And so I'm encouraging you this year to be intentional about everything that you are planning for your life and what God has for you. So I said, we've got a great show planned for you. We've got phenomenal women for this month. And of course, I have the phenomenal woman, this week's guest, Miss Tope Leyimu, the attorney at law. And so I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy because she's going to share some wonderful things with us. And I can't wait to talk with her. So we'll be right back. The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com.
Hello, everybody. It's Finkley of The Michael Finkley Show, and you're watching Gold right now. Why? You're watching The Tammy Show. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show. I told you we've got a great show planned for you, and I want to thank Michael, Dr. Michael Finkley, my dear friend, Grammy nominee, for always being so supportive. Okay, great show planned for you. Phenomenal woman for this week. For Women's History Month, the first week of Women's History Month. She is a devoted wife, a dedicated mother to her beautiful daughter, Simi, who's 2 years old. She graduated and received her JD from the University of Virginia School of Law, and she's a partner at Motley Rice. She focuses her practice on helping people that are catastrophically hurt or killed as a result of corporate wrongdoing, occupational hazards, and environmental negligence. She works extensively on the hair relaxer multi-district legislation, serving on the Leadership Development Council, co-chairing. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. I'm so excited about her being here. I'm getting all choked up. Anyway, co-chairing the L'Oreal, Liability Committee and litigating cases related to the manufacture, marketing, and sales of hair relaxers. So I'm excited to hear about that. Tope takes pride in advocating for improved worker safety, representing workers who have suffered from cancer, respiratory ailments, and other diseases caused by other toxic chemical exposures. Now, Tope serves as chair of the board of directors for the Charleston Legal Access and by appointment by the South Carolina Supreme Court to the Access for Justice Commission, where she works to expand access to legal services across the state. Listen, I'm so choked up and so mixed up and tongue-tied. I am excited because Tope Leyimu is here with us today. Phenomenal woman, Women's History Month. Come on out, Tope.
Hey, Tammy. Well, thank you to a phenomenal woman that I'm looking at right here. Thanks so much for having me.
Listen, thank you so much. Listen, forgive me for getting all choked up. The Supreme Court has appointed you to the Access to Justice Commission. I got it right. The L'Oreal Liability Committee and litigating cases and all Leadership Development Council. I mean, you're phenomenal. You have done so much. But one question that I always ask my guest, Tope, is if somebody meets you on the street or they walk by, they say, "Oh, there's Tope Leyimu." What do you say who you are, Tope?
Who am I?
Who are you?
Well, I'm a child of God, first of all.
Amen.
I am the daughter of hardworking parents who came from Nigeria to this country. I'm first generation of our line to be born in this country. My full name is Tammy Tope Leyimu. That means I am grateful to God in Yoruba, my parents' native tongue. So all that I am is really a reflection of all that has been blessed and bestowed upon me. And I really try to use my life to share that with others, and to be the best version of that.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's a beautiful name. I mean, it's it and I you say it just rolls right off, and but everybody knows you as Tope.
That's right.
And so I love that. Now, Tope, growing up, and I know you're originally from Florida and you're now in South Carolina, in Charleston, my hometown as well. Growing up, what was your biggest dream?
I think my biggest dream, and it can sound kind of corny, but my biggest dream was just to help others.
Mm,
It was just to help others, whether it be, my family, my parents growing up, they had an accent, and some people would say, I can't understand what they're saying. So, then I got my personality where I would, be loud and boisterous and said she wanted the fish, she wanted the salmon, that's sort of my advocacy, right?
right.
Started. But yeah, I just knew I wanted to help people. And in terms of my career, I knew I wanted to be doing something that was anchored in
Mhm.
purpose, right? That was purpose driven. And so that was my biggest dream for myself. To be a dream actualized for my parents, who had a very big dream when, they came here and started a family, and just to help others and be a blessing to others. That's my
Wow.
greatest gift.
Yeah. So, when we talk about those dreams, I always want to find out. So, what was that, or when was that defining moment that you decided that you wanted to go into law?
I actually was just talking to somebody about this earlier. It was a person who's interviewing for a position with us for the summer. And I sort of was navigated that way through a lot of teachers, and just mentors that I had, even in high school. And I chose to go to the undergrad that I went to. I went to University of Central Florida in Florida because they had a legal studies program. And, I didn't really have lawyers in my family. Political science seemed to, hum
Hmm.
hum. So I went to legal studies, because I wanted to be a lawyer, right? And
Right.
in that program, they had a legal research and writing program, and I really thrived. And I got close to my teachers, and I worked really hard. And one of my teachers came to me at the end of one of the course semesters and said, "Hey, I really want you to go into this law school simulation program at Florida State. It's called the Summer for Undergraduates program, because I really think that you could have a career in law if you want to do it. You're doing well in my class, and I'd like to put you up for that." So she did, where I began to engage in a law school simulation program with 60 kids from across the nation, college kids, all thinking this might be something we wanted to do. And we got so much exposure to plaintiffs' law firms like Ben Crump, his law firm in Tallahassee at the time, and some bigger law firms as well. And it really planted a seed in my heart that I wanted to not just be a lawyer, but be a lawyer who was on the side of people, be a lawyer that was on the side of a shifted power dynamic, to be a mouthpiece and an advocate for those people, to invoke change. And so I was kind of tunnel vision, and I applied to law school after that program. And it wasn't really until I got into law school, Tammy, my first year, that I started to think, is this what I wanted to do? Because all that I saw was sort of, we call them big law, like these big law jobs where you're sort of helping corporations, and facilitating deals between corporations and mergers and acquisitions. And that's all fine and good, but it just didn't resonate with my ethos, with my why, with my
Mhm.
motivation for going to law school in the first place. And so I began to be a little bit discouraged. And I did my own research about what are the top firms in the nation that are on the plaintiff side, representing people who have been harmed, who have been wronged, and really impacting change, in the legal field and in our societal landscape. And Motley Rice was one of those law firms. Well, as it turns out, they were coming to interview at my law school for the first time the year that I was eligible to have a summer clerkship. And I did just that in 2012. They offered me a position, and I've been here ever since 2013. So that's a long-winded, sort of explanation, but that's sort of where the seed was planted. It was planted within teachers and just people who saw something in me and said, "You should go out for this," and kept encouraging me. And my hate for math also contributed to that a little bit. But it was really nurtured until I felt like I could do it. And opportunities along the way shone their light and allowed me to be able to access this.
But you know what, Tope, that goes back to my original theme for the year, being intentional. You
Yeah.
were intentional about what it was that you wanted to do. For instance, Motley Rice, come on now. Who says I'm looking at all of the law firms that help people, and I want to be a part of that. And then it's not coincidental. I said nothing is coincidental. It's all ordained by God, right? And
Amen.
here you are at Motley Rice. So when I asked this question, who inspired you?
So many people have inspired me along the way. And I always say my mom's my biggest inspiration because she is really the personification of faith and walking by faith. There is not a question, there's not a idea, there's not a thought that I have where her response is not, did you pray about it? Let's pray about it and then let's move forward. And that inspiration, although, when I was younger, I was like, oh, maybe dismissed it a little bit. As I've gotten older, I have realized just the power in that, the power in walking by faith. Because, so many things in this world can get us down, right? So many things in my professional world can get me down, and the injustices that I see. But if you walk by faith and not by sight, as my mom has, instilled in me and inspired in me, you will, what you want and what you believe in will come to fruition. And those hopes and dreams, you can achieve. And along the way, there have been so many men and women, especially women, who have upheld me, and have prayed but for me, who have stood beside me, who have poured into me, who have encouraged me, and who have guided me. And so I stand on the shoulders and sort of a part of a tribe of just support and community. And it inspires me every single day.
Wow. Well, Tope, on that note, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back. And when we come back, I want to talk with you about being a partner at Motley Rice and the hair relaxer multi-litigation. I want to talk about that because when you say that, that's a mouthful. A lot of people don't really know what that is. So if you'll just stick with me, we're going to come right back. We're going to take a commercial break and we'll come right back. All right. Thanks so much. We'll be right back, folks.
The Orangeburg County Conference Center supports downtown Orangeburg and our surrounding communities. The 6,000 plus square foot space is ideal for groups of up to 400 people attending corporate meetings, conventions, workshops, and special events. Conference Center staff are inspired to ensure that everyone can enjoy the modern amenities. State-of-the-art ballroom that accommodates up to 400 guests banquet style and 430 guests theater style. A warming kitchen with hot boxes, ice machine, refrigerator, freezer, and counter space. A lobby that accommodates 150 guests with special events outdoors. The comfortable outdoor amphitheater has a video wall and seating. Adjacent to the amphitheater is 12,000 plus square feet of green space that extends events outside, plus complimentary on-site event parking and additional parking across the street. Your event can take place all in one spectacular location. We welcome your special event in Orangeburg.
Hey, you're watching The Tammy Show. And remember to keep it cool with me, AC.
Hey, welcome back. All right. If you are just joining the show, I'm with a phenomenal woman. I'm calling all of my women this month for Women's History Month phenomenal, amazing. I mean, so many adjectives that we could talk about. But this is Tope Leyimu, attorney at law and partner at Motley Rice. And so thank you so much for joining me back on the show, Tope. I want to ask you, about being a partner at Motley Rice. What's that like, and how did you get to that part of your career?
Well, what it's like is incredible. For lawyers, this is sort of like a huge crescendo in our career. And so I'm so proud and honored to be a partner, not just a partner, but a partner at this specific law firm that really champions causes and can be, the David against the Goliath in a litigation setting, whether it's big tobacco or asbestos or BP or the opioid litigation, opioid crisis, or products like the hair relaxer litigation that we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a minute. It's really great to be able to be plugged in and be a partner and be called a partner at this firm. I had, like I talked about, I had interned at this firm in 2012 and was offered a position in 2013 as an associate. And so I sort of worked my way up, working on many different cases, from occupational disease cases to loss of life and limb cases, into some environmental hazard cases and opioid litigation as well for many, many years. And in 2022, after I had my daughter, Simi, you asked about my inspiration earlier. She's certainly one, inspiration and motivation. 2022, I had her in October, and I made partner December of that year. And so when I came back to work, I sort of came back, and not only in partnership, but also working on the hair relaxer litigation, on leadership in that capacity.
Yeah, wow. Well, let's talk about the hair relaxer litigation, because that's so important, especially when now I'm natural, but back then I had the relaxer and I was doing my hair and all of that. But talk about how this came to be a multi-litigation case, and if women can still enter this case. That's what I was curious about.
Sure. I'll answer the second question first, which is
Okay.
absolutely. Cases are being filed, multitude of cases are being filed every single day. It's an active litigation. I want to take a step back and just define what a multi-district litigation is, because it sounds like a big word and it's certainly a mouthful, but it's a very basic concept. There are a lot of cases of women who are alleging harm based on their frequent use of hair relaxer products. And when I say a lot of cases, I think we're at about 10,000 cases across the nation. And so when something happens like that, when there's a harm that's so big, that's so pervasive, and then there's a potential remedy through legal action, what happens is there can be at the federal level a sort of judicial proceeding. And in that proceeding, we call it consolidation. There's a lot of cases, a lot of light cases. So if you're a woman who's been harmed, who alleges that, use of these products by these defendants caused this type of injury, as we do in this case, that can be consolidated in front of a federal judge who can rule on sort of big issues that are common to all of them, because it's too hard to litigate those one by one across the nation, potentially have some inconsistencies. So we have that because there are so many cases of women who have developed endometrial cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer from frequent use of hair relaxer products, as they allege. They have been consolidated in the Northern District of Chicago, so Chicago, I should say, in front of a singular judge, and that's Judge Rowland. And she is deciding, with who she puts in place, she's deciding some major issues that impact all of those cases. So for instance, if the defendant files a motion to dismiss, as they have in this case, she'll rule on that for all of the cases that are a part of this multi-district litigation. And she has, and we were successful in moving past that. But that's all that means. That just means there's a lot of cases, and unfortunately in this case, that means there's a lot of injury. There's a lot of cases, and to be able to efficiently and effectively move them through the legal process, they're consolidated in what's called a multi-district litigation, so that we can get through some of those big issues before they're ready for trial.
So, Tope, what's the difference between a class action lawsuit and a multi-litigation?
Yeah, there are many differences, and I don't want to bore you with all of them, right. But there are different criteria, for class action versus a multi-district litigation. In a multi-district litigation, we are working up every single case. And so it's like, a client who walks in our door, and we have clients, right here in Charleston. We're working up that case just like we're working up a case from a client who's in Maryland. And we're working up that case individually. We have a team and a deep bench of people who are working up that case, because that case might go to trial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have commonalities. They may not be the same sort of case top to bottom, but they have enough commonality to be involved in this multi-district litigation.
Wow. Okay. So thank you for that, because when I looked at that, I said, okay, that's the question I had that I was going to ask you.
Yeah, and I think some people might have an idea like, oh, is this one of those things that you sign up, maybe you get like a $5 coupon at the end of it all? No. This is these cases are, and that's not all class cases, to be clear, but these multi-district cases are, they're being worked up as individual cases, but for efficiency purposes, they are grouped together for some big picture rulings from the court.
And you've been working on this case for quite a while, haven't you?
I have. I've been working on it at least since I got back from maternity leave in 2022. So yes, certainly.
Okay.
And there
no. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and there's a reason for that. There's a couple big things that happened. We can get into that a little bit later, but there's some medical literature that came out 2021, 2022, tying the frequent use of hair relaxer products to an increase, a staggering increase of uterine cancer. And we know, and ovarian cancer as well. And since then, there's a Black women's health study that's come out in 2023, drawing a link as well as it relates to frequent use of hair relaxers for a prolonged period of time and uterine cancer. And so when this medical literature was revealed, that really was the inception of a lot of cases and a lot of women saying, wait, me too. That happened to me.
Exactly.
I experienced this. I use this since I was a child. This product, as we well know in community, and so that's kind of the lifespan of the case so far. But it's been going on for years at this point.
Right. So that could be anything that could happen that would precipitate more action, more litigation, more cases, that type of thing. Am I correct in saying that?
Sure. Yeah. Certainly, when medical literature or scientific literature comes out and sheds light on issues concerning products or environmental hazards and the like, we are able to pursue legal action in concert with experts, and of course the burden's on us to prove causation to that, but we endeavor to do so in a lot of different cases, and this one is no different in that respect.
Wow, kudos to you, because we need women like you fighting for us. And as Marlon always says, oh, you one of the best. You are one of the best doing this. And so we are so appreciative of all the work that you do. Talk about the litigation dealing with the social media and why that's important, especially in our minors.
Absolutely. Wow, this one hits close to home as well, and I do want to go back to the hair relaxer litigation for that reason, because it's very personal. But similar to that, grew up in a tech age, right? Grew up in an age where you've got the phone, you've got access to all these different apps, and for me, that was a little bit later on than certainly it is for kids now who are getting on these apps at younger and younger ages. And the way that these apps are designed, they're defective. That's what we allege, because they cause harm to young people. The way that the algorithms are designed, the features like the endless scroll, the doom scrolling, right? The notifications and specific features on TikTok and Snapchat and all these, all of these different applications and platforms. We have filed suit in litigation on behalf of school districts, including Charleston County, and on behalf of minors who have experienced harm based on the allegations as well.
Wow.
So that's near and dear, and that one is in California, the District of California, and it is proceeding in discovery, much like the hair relaxer case. And back to the hair relaxer case for a minute, because it's Women's History Month, and
yes, please.
So many messages that we have been told as women historically, even still today, about how we are not good enough in so many different ways, and what beauty is and what it should be. And this case is, there's a lot of reinforcing of stereotypes as it relates to beauty, that sort of compelled people to reach for a box of hair relaxer, right? And that's no judgment. I mean, I certainly had hair relaxers applied. It's no judgment. It just became a
Oh yeah.
way, right? And a societal accepted way. We think about the Crown Act, which was, introduced in, I believe, 2021 to
Right.
literally protect people from wearing protective styles like braids and bantu knots and, locks in the workplace and in educational environments.
Hmm.
And so that is kind of the framework, that historical contextual framework of this case. And the marketing messages, they resonate in a way because, they're telling you should be this, you have more moral aptitude if you look like this, you're more professional if you look like this, you're more beautiful, you're more desirable if you look like this, while simultaneously downplaying the risks and saying it's healthy, it's protective, it's organic, and it's natural, all while
Something
having
went wrong.
chemicals
Please try
that
again.
all while having chemicals that are harming people. It's a toxic.
Hmm.
And so whether we're talking about a product like a hair relaxer product or a product like an app on your phone, we all have to be intentional, and that's a really good sort of segue. We all have to be intentional about what it is that we are using and what these products are and how they can cause harm.
Yeah.
And that's really what the crux of these litigations are about.
And will it end up that in the litigations, is it the hope that there will be messages on these boxes? Because there aren't many messages on the box, just like cigarettes, tobacco,
Yeah.
where they didn't have the warnings back then on the Marlboros and all of those things. I remember all those heavy cigarettes. I was like, oh, and they didn't have those warnings. Is that what you're leaning towards, to make sure that there are messages for women, so that we do know what harm can come to us?
That's right. I mean, you've hit on one of the allegations in the complaint, which is failure to warn. There's negligence, there's strict liability, there's failure to warn. And the
Mhm.
failure to warn is just that. I mean, a woman cannot make a fully informed choice about,
Mhm.
or consent about, what she's putting on her body or her little girl's body and head, and dermal absorption and chemicals seeping into the body. Cannot make a fully informed choice about that if you don't know what the risks are, if you don't know what the harms are, if all you know is it could cause, eye irritation or what have you. But if you are not testing for the long-term effects of this product, if you are not telling people about the risks associated with these products, reproductive cancers and the like, you've either got to test it or you got to tell people that you have not tested. And we want that front and center in this litigation. And I think, a lot of these companies that we talk about, the ones we talked about today, and many others, are innovative. They've got money, they've got innovation. They can, or if they can't, you really shouldn't be putting a defective product on the market. But if you can make it better, you should. You have the power, the innovation to do it, do the research, do the development, do the testing to do it. But if you're not going to do that, you must tell people so they can then make a fully informed choice of what it is they're using and how they can harm themselves.
That's right. Tope, I want to thank you so much for bringing all of this to light, because I wanted to talk to you last year about this. But guess what? This year we were together last year, this same time last
Right.
year.
Right.
And so it's all come full circle. I want to go back to Tope. When you talk about your career, what do you think was the most challenging aspect of your career, or if there was a challenging aspect to your career?
Oh, so many challenges to my career. I think as many people believe in you, and support you, and want to see you do well, there are also people who might not believe in you, might not want you to have a seat at a particular table, might think that they're better than you for whatever reason. And separate and apart from that, you might begin to internalize that and have imposter syndrome or have bouts of doubt. All of those things have happened to me at one point or another in my career.
Wow.
And that is a challenge that's important because it's edifying. And it gives the opportunity to work through that, and really get back to self and figure out why you're doing this in the first place. And again, the first question you asked, who you are, get back
Yep.
to the who you are, and build that confidence up. And then there's just the challenge of these cases. Like, these are not easy cases. They do not last a year. These are multi-year cases, and it's a slog. It's a slog to get information to the jury. It's a slog to get information to the court, to uncover things in the discovery process. There's wins, there's losses along the way, all of which you learn from, and it helps your practice be more perfected, and it helps you be a better lawyer. But it certainly is a challenge. So there's professional, and then there's the challenge of juggling it all, right?
Yep.
That
was my next question. How do you balance it? How do you, Tope?
Yeah, I don't do it well all the time, but my 2-year-old gives me grace. So does my husband, and our clients are so fantastic, and it just keeps me going, right? It just keeps me going to know why I'm doing something, the impact I'm trying to make. As she gets older, I will be explaining to her exactly why Mom's flying out to LA or flying out to Chicago, and what the cause is that I'm doing it for, and how I'm trying to make a better future for her. I certainly, talk to my husband about those things. So I balance it all by trying to do it all as best as I can, but also just really talking through what I'm doing, and not just compartmentalizing my work life from my personal life, because it's all one. I'm a full person, right?
That's right.
A lot of different things on my plate, but I'm a full person and multifaceted, and I think that's a really beautiful thing for my daughter to see.
That's right. It is, and she gets to see that. And so when you talk about your daughter, what is it that you want her to learn from you?
Yeah, I want her to learn from me that she can literally do anything she wants to do. And if she wants to achieve something, it is within reach. I remember growing up, I really felt like I could tell my parents one day, I want to become an astronaut, and they'd say, okay. Or I want to become the president, and they say, okay, because they had that much, sometimes unbelievable faith in their daughter to achieve her dream, just because. Right. And I really want my daughter to feel that. And when we talk about the litigations that I just talked about, I want her to know that she's worthy. And I want her to feel that deeply. No matter, worthy in a beauty sense, worthy in a professional sense, worthy not needing affirmation from others, worthy just as she is, sort of made in the image of God, just as she appears and ambulates in the world, just as she is, she's worthy. Right. I want to impart that to her on a personal level. And I hope that she carries that into whatever she decides to do as well.
And when we talk about that, talking about what you want your daughter to learn, what is it that you've learned about yourself through the years?
Oh, I've learned so much. I've learned that I'm extremely resilient. I learned that I take criticism well, because I try to figure out how I can be better. So I'm a fighter, right? I'm scrappy, I'm resourceful, and I'm resilient. And that's really good. I learned that I'm way more patient than I ever thought that I was. I used to think I was impatient when I had a 2-year-old. So she tests my patience all the time. And I realized that I'm actually pretty long suffering.
Right.
I've learned so much about myself, even through this litigation. It's been enlightening, the hair relaxer litigation. I've learned about things that I've probably internalized, as a young person, that I've had to shed in adulthood, that I continue to shed in adulthood. You learn things that you believe about yourself that aren't true because society is saying it, or you're being messaged somehow about it. And then you learn to unlearn those things, right? To walk into who you are in a fuller way. So many things that I've learned.
Wow. And I'm just, one of the, and I'm going to finish up with 2 other questions. If you had the chance to do things over again in your life, if you were given that chance, would there be anything that you change?
No.
Okay.
No. I can't, well, it's hard to say. I can't really think like that, right? It's not the way that my mind's programmed to think. So as long as I had the same lessons, the same revelations, the same, in the face of sometimes troubling times, the same hope that I still have, and
Mhm.
optimism that I still have, then I'm all right. No matter what I go through, I'm all right. Yeah.
All right. And that's the way it should be. And if you had one thing that you wanted to share with women today, and we're talking about Women's History Month, what advice would you give to a woman who wants to live her dream?
Go for it. Be apologetically you. Go for it. Take up space. Do it scared. If you want to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, do it while your voice shakes. Do it scared. Because the only regrets you have are sort of those things that you don't take on that you wanted to. Take up space. Be who you are. Everybody brings something to the table. Nobody is you. You can only bring yourself to the table, and the world needs you. And you're enough and you're worthy. All of those things. And I
Wow.
think be intentional about telling yourself that. Talk to yourself.
Mm,
Tell
mm.
yourself like I'm that girl. Be intentional about that. And back on intentionality and as it relates to women's health, I do want to say, and we talked about some women's health issues and reproductive issues. It's important to be intentional about checkups and going to the doctor. Because particularly some of the reproductive cancers that we talked about, the symptoms are less obvious. And so
Mhm.
sometimes before it's caught, it's too late.
That's right.
And so you just be intentional about prioritizing yourself, whether your health and otherwise, but prioritize yourself because you're worth it and you deserve.
Yeah. And sometimes that's easier said than done. And
Yes.
as you are talking, I'm listening because I'm listening for myself as
Yeah.
well. And so I
I'm
want to
grateful
thank
for
you
it as
for
well.
being so transparent. And we do have to take care of ourselves as women. We really do. What's next for Tope?
I don't know, right? That's yet to be written, but certainly continuing on this journey to fight for these women who so deserve it, to fight for these kids who so deserve it, and to chart a path forward, trying to, with my little slice of the world, try to do whatever I can to make it a little bit of a better place for me and for generations to come.
Wow.
So we'll see more expansion of access to justice, hopefully in the state of South Carolina. Um, yeah, and just and more of the same, just in a bigger, bolder way.
Wow. And you're doing it in a bold way. And so the last question is 3 words that describe Tope.
Oh, okay. I would say ambitious, resilient, and blessed.
And blessed. Wow. Ambitious, resilient, and blessed. And yes, you are. And I want to thank you so much for being on the show with me tonight.
Thank you, Tammy. Oh, this was so fun. This was
This
lovely.
was fun. Listen, I could talk to you all night, but you got to go take care of Simi and
Yes.
and tell her I said hello. Give her a
Oh, I
big
will.
hug. And thank your husband so much for sharing you with us tonight. I appreciate you so much, Tope. God bless you. And if there's
I
anything I can
appreciate
do,
you.
please let me know.
Thank you. Appreciate you more than you know. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Tammy.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, you heard it right here. That was Tope Leyimu. I tell you what, phenomenal woman. And she has to come back on. We're going to have her come back on and talk more about the hair relaxer litigation. I want to show her email because there's a way that you can get in touch with Tope. Am I right in saying that? Because I can see Tope backstage. It is Leyimu@motleyrice.com. So if you are interested in learning more about the hair relaxer multi-litigation, please give Motley Rice a call and reach out to Tope so that they can help you with that, because we have got to take care of each other. As Tope said, it's so important as women that we take care of each other. So I want to thank her again. Thank you, Tope. You're such a blessing. Give your family my best. Thank you so much. Listen, Thank you all for joining the show, because next week we've got another phenomenal and amazing woman coming on the show, and I'm excited about it. I want to thank my senior associate producer, Willie, for being here with me, guest coordinator, Ashley, and of course, I always ask you to please subscribe to the Tammy TV show. That's the YouTube channel, the Tammy TV show. Hit the red subscribe button, and it will notify you as when the show is coming on. I always remind you, let's remember to be a blessing to somebody today and every day. Call them up, pray for them, keep them in your prayers, and be intentional about everything that you do. Thank you again for joining us. And until the next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.